Welcome back to Where Are They Now podcast. My next guest is from season 3 of Big Break, Ladies Only. And I have to tell you right up front, she's one of the folks that I really wanted to get on here. And it took our crack staff research team and to try to track her down. But they did. They delivered. Ladies Only premiered February 8th, 2005. They started in Orlando, and you'll remember, I think there was a jet involved that showed up and a little morning ride on a boat. And they ended up going out to Kings Mill Resort and Spa in Williamsburg. And the winner got a couple of LPGA exemptions. I think one was a Michelob Ultra Open. And then my guest today also participated in Big Break 7, the reunion in Orlando. So she participated in that. The contestants there, I think there were men and women over there, like 8 and 8 or something like that. But there was a bunch of folks from the first 6 seasons. They put them together in season 7. You guys remember this. I don't have to tell you that. People would say her resume wasn't as stout as some of the others. Her experience might have been, but let me tell you, she's an athlete, number one. Number 2, drive, determination. I mean, it was just evident in season 3. And she ended up being the runner-up behind Danielle in that season. I'm really excited to welcome to Where Are They Now podcast, Pam Garrity. Pam, welcome.
Hi, Nick. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited about having you here. So what we want to do, and this is really a show that's driven by our fans of Big Break and fans of the podcast. And they've sent in tons of questions, 780 something. I have the exact number, 87 people responded with questions, and we were flooded with those. And what we want to do is we have a segment up front called Quick Hitters, and those are just background stuff, like did the cameras distract you and all those kind of things. We're going to get to those, and then we're going to hear about the origin. Take us through the process. How did this start out? Were you a Big Break fan? Did you like when Don Donatelli yelled, "Pull it tight," and said, "I got to do that too," and yell the same thing? What was your thoughts about Big Break and how you tried out and all that? Then we're going to take you through the challenges and some of the challenges. We can't go through the whole thing. But we want to take you through some of that. And then most importantly, we want to find out what happened post Big Break and what is Pam doing today. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right. I want to start off just with a couple of things that were by far the most questions we got. 2 topics. One was the Danielle relationship on season 3, and then your exit and the reunion show on season 7. And I just want to touch on these briefly so we can put them in the bank and the listeners can hear and feel better about you, because they weren't happy about either thing. And they were very much pro Pam. And I just want to have you kind of set the record straight. So talk about the Danielle relationship on the show. It seemed early on, Pam, that you guys were getting along fine. It seemed like, a matter of fact, it was, as someone that watches a lot of Big Break, and more than I should right now, but I have to, it seemed like you had a really tight group of folks. I mean, the women there, you guys got along from the jump. It would seem like a really fun group, energetic, excited. Where did it go bad between you and Danielle?
Well, I think the vibe turned about halfway through. This was so early in reality television that, there was no playbook. We didn't know what to expect or how people acted on camera, and people act very different on camera, which is fairly natural. And we were thrown into this bizarre show together, and we all were very bonded over that. And then, week into it, a lot of sleep deprivation and a couple of little remarks, and true colors started showing. And some of us didn't enjoy it. We called it out.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I in viewing this thing, and I noticed 2 areas where it seems the embers start to burn, at least flicker. And one of those was at the breakfast table after you eliminated Jan. There were comments from Danielle about it's crazy that she's eliminated because she's so good, and not necessarily the best people always win, and that kind of thing. And again,
I think that's where it went south. It definitely started to go south because we all thought it. I mean, I know that Jen was an incredible player, and to have us both fail so miserably in that challenge, we both were awful in that challenge. And it was a surprise to everybody, just how the wheels came off and Jan was eliminated. But to say it at breakfast in front of everybody and cameras, like it was surprising and unnecessary.
You said, and I'm paraphrasing, you said, I'm not used to people talking trash in golf. I'm not used to them doing that. I'd rather have them beat me on the course.
Sure. Right. Well, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep the emotion out of it and just play golf.
Right. The second area where I thought that it really started to go before you literally had the confrontation on the side hill there was when you were playing the break or the horse game, and we were giving out the letters, and she kept and I think this was a self-preservation tactic by Danielle, because she was saying it to Cindy, excuse me.
I think she was setting herself up as a defense in case it didn't work out, that she was saying, this is why. And I can't blame her for it. And she wasn't wrong, but again, she was poking and bringing it up, and she was just starting it. So.
And then tell us about how it just finally gets. You're standing next to her. She again starts with the weakest player might win this whole thing, and you've had enough. I mean, the bear's been poked. I mean, the bear very, very positively.
At that point, I had some good shots.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There's a couple.
Right. So tell us what happened right then.
I didn't watch it when they replayed it. I didn't get a chance to watch it, and so I don't recall. This was, let's remember, this was 15 years ago.
Yes.
So I don't remember every detail, but I do remember how tired we were and how the producers were really desperate for a little bit of action in the emotional side of golf, and they were looking for a little drama, and the opportunity presented itself very easily with Danielle, and I was happy to jump in and confront her a little bit. It was partly amusing, partly some self-defense, and it was definitely you knew as the words were coming out of my mouth, I was like, this is good TV.
Yeah. Did you have any and this goes to our quick hitters, our fan questions. I can read about 10 of them in my head right now hearing this. After this is over and we're going to talk through it, did you ever talk to Danielle post big break?
I never heard from her. I never knew. I don't know where she lives or lived or where she played golf. I never heard another word about her ever since. Same. To this day. I have no idea.
Let's touch on the other show, the reunion show in Orlando, season 7. You come back and it's really cool. I love the introduction when you guys all see each other and you see Cindy and Happy, and you guys see and meet other people from other shows. I just think that's neat, right? Because we see these people in a silo, right? And then when you guys get into together, you're like, oh, I wonder how Don would work with the guy from season 1, and it's just pretty cool just to check that out.
Yeah.
You had made a comment about Bree, and you got to kind of chill out. I mentioned to my wife while I was looking at some of the tape last night. She was actually looking at it with me, and I said, Pam said this in season 3 to another girl on the show that said, that kind of outburst based on a shot or two is just, how do you keep your composure? It wasn't really. It was more constructive than it was, criticizing. And you did the same thing kind of with Bree. We just kind of said, wow, an explosion after just, being a shot. And then you end up getting called out about it at the table. Take us through what happened there.
I haven't seen that show since it aired, and I probably didn't even watch all of it when it aired. But yeah, there was definitely some divide, and I'm sure that I didn't have to chime in to whatever was going on, but I did. And I don't think it went well after that. And it was a very young group, and I was young too. I mean, this was a long time ago, but the group was very young, and the behavior was very young, and I think it was reflected as such.
Well said. Well, I got a lot of stuff to talk to you about. I do appreciate you tackling those two themes because they were definitely on our fans' mind and your fans' mind. So I'm glad you handled that. Let's jump right in to the fun stuff. Quick hitter questions from all over the country. And Ashley from St. Petersburg wanted to know just the question I asked you before. Did the production aspect of Big Break affect your game? The cameras, the setup time, all of that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was having a camera, first of all, having like your mom out there when you're playing golf, take a picture, like that would be enough to make me nervous. But having multiple cameras, multiple people, each camera had a sound guy, a light guy, a camera guy. I mean, there were just so many people all around, cameras rolling, and you're standing over a shot thinking, oh, every golfer in the country is going to watch me either do this well or do this really poorly. And yeah, your hands are shaking, your mind is shaking, your heart hurts because it's pounding. It was terrible.
Mark from Baltimore wants to know, hey, Pam, was it tougher mentally or physically?
So that's a good question because mentally, hands down, it was tougher mentally without a doubt. Physically also at that time, I had a lot of back pain at that time in my life. And so, let's see, it was in October in Virginia. It was raining every day. It was cold most days. And I had a terrible time standing up straight. So yeah, so that time in my life, my back was killing me. And that was and a lot of the shows, you probably wouldn't notice unless you're looking for it. I'm wearing heating pads taped around my waist. And yeah, that was physically was my biggest hurdle was my back pain. But definitely it didn't compare to the mental turmoil that we went through.
The back pain was obvious. You were, I mean, you were stretching on the tee. I mean, you're doing twists. You could tell every time before your shot, even in between shots on a couple of those, target events, you were stretching. So that was obvious. Pat from New Orleans wants to know, hey, Pam, when you guys came up each day, sometimes the sun wasn't up.
Right.
Take us through your typical day.
Oh my gosh. I feel after having kids, this probably wouldn't have been so difficult, but we were up. The call time was so early in the morning so that we had already been fed, transported, and all the early morning stuff. And we were on the tee before the sun came up. So all those morning meetings at the Big Break Rock, those were all under artificial light. It was that early in the morning. And we do the production all day. And then they always had an evening activity for us, like the symphony or the water park or whatever we were doing. And then we had to do our interviews. And so depending where you fell in the line for interviews, it was 11 o'clock at night, midnight, after midnight, and then of course call time back at 5 a.m. or whatever time the call time was. And that combination of sleep deprivation and emotion will always make for great television.
Yeah, I bet.
So there was definite strategy in that. They did that on purpose. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
For any reality show, they deprive you of sleep. That's why there's so many tears all the time and some, quick-witted comeback lines.
Yep. And we're going to talk about the pressure in a second here, but let's move on still with our quick hitters. Mark from Greenwich, Connecticut. When did you realize that not only you can play with these ladies, but you can win it all?
I don't know if I ever thought that I could win it all. I mean, I probably did and didn't. Did I want to win it all? I don't know. It was, I could definitely play with them because the first couple of days you hit a couple shots and you're like, oh, wait, that wasn't so bad. And then you watch everybody else hit bad shots or good shots and we're all in the same boat. So playing together wasn't a big deal, but winning it, I don't know if I ever thought I could win this thing.
One of the shots you made that I think endears you to the fans and really has made you one of the fan favorites is it was a bunker shot and you sculled it and it just went like 80 yards. It had to go 30 and they don't even show it. You just apologized. You went, oh, I'm so sorry. And it just walked away. And there's no one that I know that would do what you just did. And you smiled about it. And you just walked away. You just was like that. Just, that's what happens. Right. And it was just so emblematic of who you were. You knew you had the game, but everybody makes that kind of shot. Some of them just like, put their head down and slam their club. You just started laughing right as soon as you hit it.
Hold on, Nick. I can't hear you, Nick. Hang on. Oop. Are you there?
Could you hear me now?
I missed all of that. I'm sorry.
All right, what was the last thing you heard? We'll cut it up. The bunker shot?
Something about the bunker shot, and I walked away, and then
yeah. So let's pick it up here. So one of the shots that I think is emblematic of who you are and how you resonated with the fans was a bunker shot that you sculled, and it just went like, you're supposed to go 30 yards and it might have went 60, and it just flew. Like, you just sculled it, right? Everybody does that. And you just immediately started laughing, and then you said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And then everybody high-fived you. It was just such a different mentality.
Oh my God, it's so embarrassing to hit
others. I could imagine. Do you remember that shot? I know it's a long time ago. Okay. I don't. It was, I just saw it last night, so I it's not like I remember all this either, but it was.
I know that I had a couple of good bunker shots.
Really good ones.
Also. Yeah. But no, there was another shot that I do remember. I think I was going for the green with like a big club, and I like topped it.
Right.
So, I mean, these shots happen, and you can either like you're mortified no matter what.
Right.
But I mean, come on, this is life.
Sure.
And it was, yeah. I think I had a bunch of those.
Cheryl says, "Pam, I love you. You were my favorite. What was it like swimming with the dolphins? It's on my bucket list."
Oh my gosh, I would love to do that again. That was one of the coolest experiences, like non-golf experiences. That was a lot of fun. That was a real treat that the Golf Channel did that before we started, because that was a nice way to get to know the ladies and get comfortable around each other and like get a little bit of a feel for having cameras in your face. And while doing something really super fun, that was a great move for the Golf Channel to do that for us.
Scott from San Diego. Hi, Pam. Do you stay in touch with anyone from Big Break?
I do. A bunch of us, most of us are Facebook friends. And so I know when people have gotten married or when they play golf, because they all play a lot of golf and post about it. I know what their kids have been doing. And sometimes we even like text each other. So yeah, not everybody, but I think there are like 8 of us that I know what's going on.
Brian from Little Rock, Arkansas says, "What did you guys do at night? I know the days were long. It must have been tiring."
Yes. They had an activity for us every night, from the symphony, the roller coasters. I mean, what else did we do? They had special dinners.
I went to that nice dinner. That was cool.
Yeah, we had a specific activity every night, and then followed by our interviews, which would last at least an hour per person. And they only had, I don't know what they did. They had like 3 interview stations, so we had to sit around and wait for it. And yeah, so they kept us up really late and started really early.
Unbelievable.
Which at that time, I guess, when you're 25, you can do those sort of things without too much pain. But yeah, it was hard. They definitely did that. Mm-hmm.
Steve from Newport News, Virginia. How did you like historic Williamsburg?
Oh yeah, we did that. We did a big tour there. I had been there as a child with my family. And so it was great. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I would love to take my kids there at some point when they're old enough to appreciate some history.
I was thinking the same thing when I was watching it last night. Mike from Framingham, Massachusetts. Where did the eliminated players go? I know today, I don't think he means today because the show's not going anymore, but right. They stay on the show. Yours went directly home, correct? That's the question.
So they were transported somewhere else on the property. So they had a whole separate living quarters. We never saw them again. Now, I wasn't eliminated in Big Break 3, so I never went to the elimination house, but they did not go home. And they stayed for the entire duration of the filming, but they were separated, and I don't know what they did. I'm sure they played golf. They probably went swimming. I don't know, whatever they did, but they were separated from us, and we never saw them again.
Excellent. We had so many questions for Pam. We're going to work them in as we go through the next 3 phases, the pre-Big Break, the actual Big Break event itself, and then post Big Break. We're going to still work on your questions. Obviously, this show is all about you guys, and we want to make sure that we get those questions out. Quick programming note: if you want your questions answered by your favorite Big Break star, send them to us for the quick hitter segment. You can send them to Twitter and Instagram and at Where Are They Now Podcast, or Where Are They Now Podcast at Gmail, or our website, wherearetheynow.com, podcast.com. Upcoming episodes, we have a bunch of people, a bunch of interviews we just did. Toph Peterson from Myrtle Beach, Libelai Lawrence, I love saying that name, Libelai Lawrence, Cindy Miller, someone Pam knows well, Mark Silvers, a champion from Greenbrier, Mark Murphy, the champion from Ireland, Jackie Stolting, the champion from Big Break, Florida. So all of those episodes come, man, I deliver for you guys, don't I? So Pam, take us on the process. Everybody wants to know, were you a fan of Big Break? How did you find out about tryouts? How did this journey start for you?
So we stumbled upon Big Break when it was on the Golf Channel, like every other golfer in the world. And I remember the the guy I was dating at the time, which is now my husband, we were laughing saying, wouldn't that be so fun to do? Like, look at these cool challenges, and they get to break glass and they do all these weird things. And so we laughed and said, that would be really fun. We have to watch this and see about trying out. So then it just so happened that they did the ladies only for season 3. And immediately we were, on the internet printing out the application saying, why not? This would be so fun.
And you're not at this time, where is your golf game? Are you playing? Are you doing long drives? Are you doing anything? Playing any tool?
So when I graduated college, I moved to Florida to play golf. And my golf coach at the time had said, listen, it's going to take 5 years. You're going to have to learn and figure this out, and tournament golf and all this stuff. It's going to take 5 years for you to get good enough to compete. And he was absolutely right. So the opportunity came in, and I was 3 years into it. So I had some skills, but I didn't have the experience. And that, I think, was my fatal flaw. So I was just starting to get respectable at amateur golf. Like, I had just been invited to, certain amateur golf events. I was living in Florida at the time, so you had to be invited to play in certain events. And I just started to get invited to these events. And then I just started to not be sick to my stomach on the first tee. Like, I was just starting to get my golf groove and really start to figure it out. Cause you really have to learn how to win when you're a golfer. And I was so almost there. And then the Golf Channel said, oh, by the way, to do this, you have to turn professional. And I was not there. I was like barely an amateur. I was like barely a decent amateur. And I argued with them. We went back and forth a lot about it. And they put their foot down and said, there's just no way around this. You have to turn professional. So it was premature in my golf career for me to do that. But we didn't want to waste the opportunity. But that was definitely, I look back and I think my career obviously would have been a lot different if I had been more conventional in my process. But, it is what it is. Can't look back.
You mentioned that, by the way, when you first walked in the door into the room, somebody says something about where'd you play or something. You're like, today's my first day as a professional. You literally, that was like day one.
Right.
So
Right. That was because I had to. Yeah, that's exactly
that's
it.
pretty cool. So you find out that you made the show. Are you, right. Another quick hitter question. Were you sworn to secrecy from then on?
Yes.
You could, right, from even all the way through to the premiere, right? No talking.
Sure. So the contract that they give you was like an inch thick, just papers and papers and papers. And you are sworn, like any reality show, you are sworn to secrecy. And I think that's why they keep the eliminated players there, because you're there for 2 weeks filming an episode a day. And so if people went home after 3 days, all their friends would be like, oh, you're home. You obviously didn't make it that far. So everybody was stuck there and then sworn to secrecy. You're right. Mm-hmm.
Jeez. Let's talk about the pressure a little bit. So you get there and you obviously we're going to talk about the arrival and stuff, but I just wanted to talk about the pressure for a second. Cindy says it on the show. Deborah says it. Almost everybody on the show talks about being over that shot on Big Break, because it is only one shot and it could be eliminating. So the pressure is
one goofy shot, Nick.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's right. It's a flop. It's through a hole. It's around a barrier. It's not tee to green golf. In most cases it's different. Mark Murphy says this, and for you listeners that have heard me say this for every episode, I apologize. But he really says it. This is what he said when I asked him about pressure. He said, Nick, and he said it in his Irish brogue. He said, think about this. It's 50 degrees. The wind's blowing 48 miles an hour. It's pouring rain. I practiced on the driving range for 22 minutes, and then I went over and sat down on a bench. I'm getting into a brogue, can you tell? And he said, I went over and sat down on a bench. I wrapped myself up in blankets. I waited there for 90 minutes. They said, Murphy, it's your shot. I went up. I took one swing. I went back and sat down for another 90 minutes. I mean, that is pressure. It's not like you stretch. You got it there. You got to get up, hit that flop shot over the wall, and go sit back down. And we don't see that on TV. We think you guys are running from event to event. We're not thinking about setup. We're not thinking about the production. We're not thinking about the waiting time because we don't see that. It's all crisp, right? Tell us a little bit about that kind of pressure.
So they did give us a chance on the driving range in the morning. They wouldn't tell us if it was putting, driving, flop shots, wedges around the green, long shots, long irons. Like they didn't tell us anything. So we had like our 20 minutes to do something. And everybody's like racing through their bag, trying to have a plan, which nobody had a plan. And then it could be 2 hours until you hit your shot, standing there. And we never had a bench. I don't think we sat on a bench. We stood there in the rain or in the freezing cold weather, looking like a bunch of drowned rats, by the way. Looking back, I'm like, oh, those clothes. And yeah, and then it's like, okay, here's your chance with the world watching you. You haven't moved in 2 hours, but hey, hit this flop shot over a wall. Good luck. So yeah, it was insane. And you know, the pressure, I think that you feed off of everybody else's pressure. And it was a pretty intense group of ladies who all really had a lot of drive and ambition, and like everybody wanted it so bad. And like all of a sudden you're like, well, they want it, like I want it too. And so like you feed off of each other's the vibe. And so it was just very, very intense. Yeah, it was extreme pressure.
So you arrive, and do we see the actual arrival? Another quick hitter question is, you guys walk into the room. Is that the first time you're literally seeing each other for the first time?
Yes, on camera. Mm-hmm. Everything cool. That it was true. There were no second takes. Everything was as it happened. Awesome.
So let's get into the actual events. I thought you played unbelievably. Let me just say this up front. I mean, just unbelievable. And we'll talk about the finals against Danielle, but I think Danielle she was saying her comments about you during the finals. She put any animosity you guys had aside, because she said she's going to put this on the green. And when you made that shot around the tree, and we'll talk about it, but it's just, she kept complimenting you and you complimented her. You said that when it was over, you said, make no mistake about it. She has game. But let's talk, before we get there, let's talk about the glass break and the flop shot. People are always interested in that. When you got to the glass break, what was your first impression? Were they bigger, smaller, farther away? Give us a perspective on that.
So, Nick, this was a long time ago, so I don't have, it was funny. Like I was watching the elimination when they played it during quarantine. I was watching the elimination with Jan, and I was like, oh my God, what is that? Who's going home? Like I didn't remember. And I couldn't pull out those real small details of like who hit what shot and who had points. Like I don't remember any of that stuff. Yeah. And so it was almost like watching it for the first time. So I don't really remember every detail about these specific challenges, but I think it was such a thrill to see the challenges in person, because you're like, oh, I just watched that on Big Break too. It's so exciting that we have to do this glass breaking. And the shots were so weird. And I gotta tell you, when you're outside swinging your 7-iron over and over for hours practicing by yourself, getting a chance to hit a weird shot, it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. That's really cool. I mean, it then we get to the flop wall, and I'll tell you the statistics, but one of the things that Mark Silvers from Greenbrier, the champion from Greenbrier, said was, it wasn't the fact that we were close to the wall. It wasn't the fact of the wall height. It was just the fact that I couldn't see my target, and not seeing the target was the challenge, right? The optical challenge there. So what was your impression of the flop ball?
Oh God, I couldn't tell you. I don't remember anything about it. I'm sorry, Nick.
So the first shot you hit the 5 inches, the second shot you
Did
hit the
I?
4 inches, and the third shot you hit the 3 inches. So
Oh,
you love it, Pam.
I did. Oh, okay.
You didn't win it, but I mean, that's pretty. I'm sorry,
So I
3
never
feet. I'm
banked it
sorry,
into the
feet. They're
wall.
not inches, but 3 feet.
Right, right.
Um,
Oh, that's so funny. Oh,
so then you do the
I
speed
don't
golf.
remember.
You remember the speed golf. You have to remember the speed golf.
So I do. Actually, I watched that episode. Sorry, it just all of a sudden got really cloudy and it's pouring rain. So it just went really dark here. So sorry about that.
That's all right.
I look like I'm sitting in the dark, which I am.
But the speed golf, I find, first thing I thought when I saw the speed golf was Cindy. Like, oh, please put her on the green. Don't have her like
Oh,
in the middle
so
of the
funny.
fairway.
So funny. I think we were secretly hoping that would be like, I don't know, a little weirder than it was, like sprints or push-ups in the middle, or I don't know, because it was just so extreme at that point. It was like, let's just really make it
I
weird.
forget, was it you and Liz and Jan or no?
It was.
I think.
I know. Oh, well, now I don't remember. I know
I
I
think it
was not
was.
with Danielle.
No, you weren't. It was Danielle, Sydney,
Sydney and Val.
I keep saying Sydney. Yeah, and Val, and it was you guys. It was Lizzie,
Yeah, Liz,
you,
Jan,
and
and
Jan. And the
Val.
interesting thing there was Jan teed off. You got 2 bombers with you and Liz, but she teed off. So, and that ended up working out. And then Liz was in the fairway and you were on the green and you almost pulled your arm out of the socket.
Oh, I did. Oh my God. It was so embarrassing. I mean, these things that on camera, it's just like you watch it and you're like, come on.
You guys do it in a minute and 105 seconds or whatever it was. And it was like a machine. And then everything on the next 3 went to hell because Val took the wrong club and she had to go get the other club. It was just a different scenario. And then Cindy had to run down the hill and ship it up before she putted. And you guys kind of like blew them out. But I just thought that was a neat event. Yeah.
But it was fun. And that's fun it was fun to watch. It was fun to do. I mean, that's just big break. That's the whole big break thing, was that it was just different and fun and weird and all of the above.
So you had a ton of different challenges, and I just want to ask you if you had a favorite. You did the target frame challenge. You had we mentioned the horse game that they called break, where you got letters. You did all the different structures. You got to hit the low shot up on the green. You had to draw the ball around. Did you have a favorite challenge?
Yes, Nick. I hold out from the fairway.
Oh, geez, what am I asking? I was getting there. But that was amazing too. And that was, first of all, that started with drives, right? You had to drive your ball.
So it was a big dog leg to the right. It was a par 4, and they had a big square in the middle of right at the dog leg.
Right.
And the girls are all up there with their drivers. And I'm like, oh, it's like 220 yards. Maybe I'll take out my 2-iron. And then I was so embarrassed because everybody else had driver. And I was so embarrassed. And I didn't want to, I don't know. I was just so nervous about failing and like coming across as a show off, or I was just so nervous about everything, of course. And so I did end up I think we had 3 shots to put in there, and only because I watched this recently is because I remember. So I put all 3 shots in there, and then I believe it was my 3rd shot onto the green. However many you put in the square was how many you had up to the green. And it was, I believe, my 3rd shot that went in the hole. And the excitement and the thrill of the crew, of the camera crew, and the girls, I mean, their shrieks. And I mean, it was just it was one of the most, and so that episode aired, we filmed this in October. It didn't air until the following February. And I'll never, the best part of that memory for me, so when it aired, it was like the week my grandfather was dying. Oh. And so my whole extended family, aunts and uncles, and we're all together in my grandfather's house. And it had been, this grandfather's dying. You go through all that. But we're all watching this episode air, and I knew what was going to happen. And the shriek and the cheering from my family as it happened on television. And I had an uncle who jumped up and cheered and threw his hand through the ceiling fan. That moment was better than when it actually happened. Like that family moment that I had watching it on TV as it aired it will be one of my favorite memories.
Well, that's an awesome story. And
Yeah.
that was a fantastic memory for Big Break. By the way, I think it was and may still be the first time anybody's ever done that in the history of Big Break. So that was awesome. I do want to rewind just a little bit because, again, you're downplaying what you did here. But you hit a choke down 3-wood to keep it in the box, number one. And everybody's bombing drivers, and you're choking down on a 3-wood. You got all 3 in the box. You are correct there. Your first shot was short. You changed clubs. Your next shot was long. And then you said, well, now I need to just put it in the middle, and you're kind of logic, and you just reared back, fired. And the way it looked, they really filmed it really well because you did not, you just see the ball disappear and you're like, did it go down a hill a little bit? So it's out of,
I mean, it could mean so many things when the ball disappears.
That's right. How did you, who told you, who saw it first to say it's in the hole?
So just as it's exactly as they showed it. The rules official that they had, the production fellow, the tape measuring guy, they were all standing there, and they were the ones that made the call and said in the hole, and you could hear it over the other guy. All the other guys, you could hear it on their walkie-talkies or whatever. And so as they said it, like the whole production and contestants, like we all heard it at once.
That's really cool.
So, I mean, you hope that's what you saw, but you're not going to, you're not going to celebrate before it happens until there's confirmation.
That was really cool. That was a great
very cool moment. Definitely.
Yeah. So let's jump to the finals between you and Danielle. This is what I think the way they shaped the show and edited it. This is what everybody wanted to see. I think Vince says that to you as you're standing out there. I didn't understand the cut from the night you guys driving up in these, I don't know what they were, Mustangs. You drove up and it was evening and you got out and kind of said, yeah, we're ready to go. One just key side note, I don't mean to knock on Danielle about this, but they asked you, what do you think's best about Danielle's game? And you said all these compliments. And then they asked her about you. And she said, we both are working really hard. And we both, it was like, what?
I know. It was, we were tired.
Yeah. Okay.
It was
anyway.
hard at that point. We had created this little bit of I think we had kind of created this drama, and like we couldn't stop it once we started it. And we were young, and I mean,
you take the high road, but she could have said a couple things about, Jesus, she doesn't have any experience and she is killing it out here. She's playing as well as anybody. She has every good chance to win as I do. She just kind of said, you guys are working hard together. Anyway, so that you do that little piece and you come out the next day and your mindset is right. You start off early and you're up a couple after 3 holes. If you remember this, you're up early on and you're not thinking, I'm going to win this thing. Well, you might be thinking that, but you're not putting Danielle away yet. There's some fire in her. She's going to come back. You're saying that as you go here. And then, somewhere, I think we get through, it's close the whole way. She ends up bringing it even you go through ninth hole, you're all square. And now we have 9 holes to win this championship. And man, it is nip and tuck, back and forth all the way through. Talk about the shot that I thought was the shot of the finals. When you hit that drive, you're dead. You're behind a tree and you're dead. This is over now because she's one up at this time. I think it's 15, maybe 16.
Somewhere around there. But Nick, when you've been behind trees the way I've been behind trees, you can't hit the ball as far as I do and not have some tree game.
Got it. That's pretty funny. All the different types of trees now. You could say there's an oak tree, there's an elm tree, you got a pine trees, you got it all. Oh, that's funny. But really, you're looking at that. You are directly behind the tree. It's got overhang of thing. We could think about, let's just chip it out. And you're thinking, I can't do that right now. In the situation I'm in, I have to get this ball in the green. And man, you delivered. An unbelievable shot because you got to move the ball. You can't just hit it straight. You got to move it. And you did it. That just must have fired you up.
Yeah, I think that when you have a little bit of luck, a little bit of skill, maybe a lot of luck, but these things every golfer knows these things can change, and it can change from hole to hole, and you can't get cocky, and you can't be defeated too early because, things change.
She's up one on the 17th tee, par three. She's
Yeah.
teeing off first. She sticks it. I mean, she sticks it to 10 feet, 12 feet, whatever it was. You're just off the green. You're having to chip. You got to make it. You said that. You got to make it. So, and you run it by, and she ends this thing. What was your first reaction after knowing that you didn't win big break?
Oh, I was disappointed, obviously disappointed. I felt that I had let down all the other girls because there was a real like us versus her mentality at that point. Like I just felt like I let down, not just me. I just felt like I let everybody down because it was, I don't know. It was maybe some relief. I mean, if we're being honest, maybe there was some relief. I don't think that, I don't think that I would have been eaten alive if I had jumped on the LPGA tour at that time. It would have been super cool and fun experience, but again, it was just another experience for me. It wasn't do or die. This is my last chance. It was, I don't know. I think it all worked out the way it was supposed to.
Danielle said in the cart driving down, I have a chance to win this thing right now. And she starts crying a little bit. She said, I'm going to start crying. And then she said, but Pam can get up and down. I know she can do that. So I got to just go there and think about it. And she's thinking this process through. I think that Pam had to win this. You wanted to win this. And I think there's a difference there. I think this was her mission. This was her career.
Hold on. Say that again. And you got your people mixed up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Danielle had to win this?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So let's go again.
Start there again.
So yeah, thank you. As I was watching her drive down in the cart, she was getting emotional and she talked about burying the putt, but then she complimented you saying there's no, I can't put aside that she'll even chip it in, get it close and two putt. But I'm almost there kind of thing. It really gave me the impression that Danielle had to win this. This was a goal that she set that she had to achieve, and she was driven for it. Not saying any less about you. You wanted to win it. You were working towards it. You gave everything you had, but you really didn't have to win. You wanted to win it. You didn't have to. Is that fair?
Yes, I think that's completely accurate. I think that it was so early in my career, in my golfing experience, that I figured this won't be my only chance. I haven't even gotten to my chances yet, but this would be really fun and this would be a really cool part of the story. But it wasn't going to devastate me. And she just had a whole different vibe about the whole experience that, and it was just we came from two different angles. And I think you're absolutely right.
So you return home, and this thing, as you mentioned, premieres in February. The fans wanted to know, how did you celebrate this achievement? Everybody, by the way, from our feedback and the surveys, looked at this as an achievement. You didn't have to win to be the event to be a winner out of this thing. You really achieved. But how did you celebrate it? Did you have viewing parties? What happened after this?
So life changed after the first episode, after the first teaser came out. A couple months later, people everywhere I went. Now I lived in Florida at the time, so everybody plays golf in Florida, and everybody watches the Golf Channel. Especially at that time, Big Break 3 was a huge hype, and so every episode that came out. So I got the tape early. Oh my gosh, I got the VHS tape early. Which I still have some of them. I'm like, what do I do with this? So I was doing other things for the Golf Channel, some other little interview things. And so I'd go up there once a week and they would give me the VHS tape and I'd put it in my VCR and watch it the day before or something like that. And so we would go sometimes we went to like a bar restaurant that we like to go to, and we would just be sitting there watching it. And then as people, they would be on every TV, and as people realized that I was sitting there and that's who they were watching up in the corner, like it was always entertaining every single time. It was a lot of fun. Sometimes I just go to a friend's house. Sometimes I just watch it at home by myself or with my boyfriend at the time, my now husband. So it was life changed dramatically overnight, just about.
Autographs at the golf course, in the airport, everywhere.
At the grocery store, people taking my picture at the grocery store while I'm buying cereal. I was like, you have to be nice to everybody, and you always have to comb your hair. It didn't last forever, obviously. Now I'm 15 years later. Nobody cares, and nobody really knows much. But yeah, I'd say for a couple of years, life was very, very different.
So tell us why you did, what opportunities. I would think you've proven your game. You hit the ball a long way. I think there was an expectation of seeing Pam at the next level. What happened?
Yeah, I played the Futures Tour for a while after that. But again, I was still learning how to compete and how to play under pressure like that. I had gone from just barely doing tournament golf as an amateur to all of a sudden playing on the Futures Tour. I would have my picture on the front cover of the local paper after I shot at like a 77. And then like the ladies who were in the lead that shot like a 67 like wouldn't be mentioned in the article. And so I think there was a lot of resentment with the other players. I was doing all the press conferences, like not because of anything except television experience, not because I went out and played well that day necessarily. And I always had the biggest crowds, which the Futures Tour at that time, let me tell you, they were not used to crowds. And then I always had a huge crowd, and I'd like shoot an 80 or a 75 or an 80 or whatever I'd shoot. And it wasn't always received that well among the other players.
Did you see anybody that you knew when you're out there on the tour?
Like the other girls on the show?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I'm sure I did at different things. Not everybody, a lot of them didn't, but yeah, suddenly it seemed like everybody knew me, and I was expected to know everybody, and it was very overwhelming. So the Futures Tour actually at that time, like they didn't have ropes set up or any security or anything like that, and I would have and you're a young girl. I was 25. I had turned 25 when the show came out. And looking back, it seems very young. And I would have people, men often, waiting at the golf course. And I'd have to walk to my car by myself. And I'd say, I don't want to walk out there alone. Could you have somebody that can? And it would be like one of the golf assistants would walk me to my car. Like there was no security, there were no ropes. I remember one time playing a Futures Tour event. And so you would have a cart driver and your bag would be on the cart and then you would walk. And my cart with my bag on it was over on the cart path away from the green. And I'm on the green playing out the hole and I look over and there's a person swinging my driver. And I was like, what is happening here? So like there are no ropes, there are no rules, there are no officials. And so I always felt very exposed and very uneasy, and I didn't know how to handle that. Sometimes it was scary, and I didn't want to go out to a restaurant by myself because you're traveling to these little podunk towns all over the country. And I said, you know what, this isn't the joy that I want. And so I stopped. That was it.
What's the coolest thing with that flash of celebrity that happened to you? Give us one of the stories.
So I was pulled over one time leaving the grocery store. I came out of the grocery store and I was pulled over.
You were flying.
I'm thinking to myself, what did I do? And it was a policeman he said, I saw you and I had to meet you.
He pulled literally lights on and everything.
Pulled me over. Another thing, I remember being with my husband in Home Depot. And this man was like, oh my gosh, Pam, big break. Oh. And like we took a picture and like my husband didn't say a word. He was like the whole time. And I don't remember who it was, but it was one of his favorite Steelers football players.
Oh, really?
Steelers fans. And he was like, my husband was just, to me, I had no idea. I really don't, whatever. and he was just like so thrilled by the fact that these other famous athletes knew who I was, and it, I mean, what a weird thing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Time.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So tell everybody, our viewers, our listeners, tell everybody what Pam's up to today.
Oh my gosh. Well, actually, I have a picture. Can I show you my picture
Sure.
that I pulled up?
Absolutely.
Let's see if I can do this. Let's see if you can. Let me.
I can
you
see
see that?
golfers I can see kids putting and chipping.
They're on a driving range.
Oh,
Those are my 4 kids.
4 kids. Wow.
So I got married a couple years after the show to the fellow that I was dating then. So we've been married for what feels like 100 years now. And we had 4 kids in 4 years. And that's what I'm doing. That pretty much sums it all up.
You could always tell what's going on with Pam by her facial expressions, just like on the show. And man, that was a good one right there.
I'm so tired.
As someone that has 4 kids, and I'm not, my wife would sigh the same way you did because she's an angel and has to deal with the same thing. So
my golf game is non-existent. I'm not gonna lie. Unfortunately, I played golf all the way up until I was too pregnant to swing with my oldest, and then they just kept coming. These kids, 4 in 4 years, and then it was just survival mode with 4 babies basically. I have twins in the middle, and
cool.
and I always said, even for when I had 1 child, I said, when my youngest child goes to kindergarten, I'm going to play golf again. And I have my amateur status. I've had my amateur status for a long time. So I'm going to become an amateur golfer once my youngest goes to kindergarten. So then the kids just kept coming. And now, my youngest just finished kindergarten. We joined a club in Connecticut where we live. And I was like, that's it. This is my year. I'm getting back into golf as soon as ski season is over, and COVID came.
Oh my God.
So golf is just going to have to wait.
So do you miss it? Is there still the drive to play? Obviously.
So, I didn't miss it for a long time. I needed a break when it was over. I was tired of all of it, the travel, the high scores. I really needed a break from that much golf. And then I had kids, and I didn't even think about golf for a number of years. And then I started to, once we said, okay, maybe you start playing again. And then and the thought of playing again makes me want to play again. Definitely.
That's really cool. Last question, looking back on Big Break, summarize that experience for us.
Wow, what a nice question. So for me, the experience was a lot of fun. It was definitely career changing. I was on a very specific, written on paper path to my golf career, how to become a golf professional. And it put a huge wrench in my whole path. Instead of 5 years, it was 3 years, and then things just went in a very different direction. But it was so fun, and it was such a great experience that I can talk about 15 years later. I can still talk about this and laugh about it. And my kids watched it when it came on. So you'll like this, Nick. I didn't tell them that the show was going to be on. I just had the TV on. And so my youngest came in, and she is just turning 6. And she's like, oh, Mom, that lady really looks like you. She's like, and she's watching it, and she's like, I'm going to root for the lady that looks like Mom. And my other kids are like, oh my God, Mom. So, and then she was very mad. She was demanding to know where she was when I filmed it.
Oh yeah, of course.
And she wanted to know, where was she and why wasn't she there? So, watching it with the kids, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was a great time in my life. That was, it was just a lot of fun memories.
Well, I want to thank you for your time today. You've shown that the class professional that we saw on the show remains today, just a mom and a wife and a career person.
A little older and a little more tired.
You look exactly the same. I mean,
I know. I turned 40 years old this year.
Yeah, well, you look great.
Thank you.
I really hope you get back in golf. I mean, your swing, and I'm a hack, 10 handicap that plays on Sunday with his buddies for a beer. So you wouldn't learn anything from me, but um, you had natural ability that was so cool to watch, and you're such a fluid swing, and you bombed the ball, and then you had a nice touch, and you had a really well-rounded game, and uh, you know, people are playing. What Phil's, doing some good things at the Travelers right now, and I think he's 50. So anyway, it was really cool to talk to you. I'm happy to tell our viewers and listeners that Pam has agreed to join us again on the podcast. I can't tell you anything about it right now because it's kind of secret, but you guys will really think it's pretty cool, and she's going to be part of it. So this isn't the last you've heard of Pam Garrity. Pam, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick.
Take care.